Hey there, I'm Jane Sawyer, and this is Jane Sawyer Makes Cosplay Horns Out of a Pool Noodle. If you're here, you may have seen a video I posted a few months ago where I made this tentacle light hanger out of a pool noodle. It was a pretty popular video, it got some views. Well, on that video, somebody commented, planning on using this to make horns for cosplay. And I thought, Brian, that's a great idea. But when we made the tentacle, I knew I wanted it to hold this lantern, so I constructed it to be really sturdy and strong, but it is heavy. And weight is something that can really kill the wearability of a cosplay piece. So this week we're gonna make some really cool pool noodle horns. So this week we're gonna make some really cool pool noodle horns, adapting the techniques we used in that tentacle video to make something that is more light and wearable. I'm not typically a cosplayer, so I'm gonna be trying out a few new things here. Hopefully we'll both learn a few things. It's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
You'll notice I'm wearing gloves here. I had just had a bad allergic reaction to my nail polish and it looked kind of gruesome, so I'm just wearing gloves to hide that. The blue gloves on a blue background wasn't the best choice, so sorry about that. I'm twisting the noodle into the rough shape that I want so I can figure out roughly how long I need each horn to be. I use my kitchen bread knife to saw through the noodle, and then I cut a second piece of equal length. I've used just a little less than half a noodle for each horn. Using my bread knife, I'm carving a long taper into my pool noodle. It helps to use a sawing motion and just take off a little bit of foam at a time. I use a scrap cutoff to fill the hole in the noodle. I just cut it roughly to size and shove it in there. When you've got one cut, grab the other piece and try to carve it as similarly as possible to your first one. While I'm working, I'm checking them lots, holding them up, rotating them, and looking back and forth to do my best to make sure I make them the same. That said, this is a pool noodle. I'm not a plastic surgeon, and so I'm trying not to be too much of a perfectionist here. When I have two reasonably similar tapered horns, I'm going to line them up and cut a mirrored angle into the base. This will hopefully make more sense later if it's not clear now, but this is going to just make the horn sit on my head more naturally. Now I'm bringing in this fencing wire. Whenever I use this stuff, people always ask me what gauge I'm using. I think it's about a 15 gauge, but the gauge isn't really critical here. What's more important is that it's a very firm wire. I recommend you grab galvanized steel wire from the fencing section of your hardware store. You can see I can bend it with my hand, but it's certainly not a soft wire. It's pretty firm, and this is what you want. You're gonna want 4 lengths of wire about 8 to 10 inches longer than your horn. Pick up 2 wires. I like to bend one of them into a hook to go over the end. This just ensures that there's no pointy wire ends popping out later. So I've got my 2 wires. I'm gonna hold them on opposite sides of my pool noodle, and starting at the tip, I'm gonna wrap some tape around to secure those wires to the noodle. Once I've worked my way down to the base of the horn with the first 2 wires, I'll grab the other 2 wires and repeat, so there's 4 equally spaced wires running down the length of the horn. You'll notice I've splayed the wires out at the base, and I'm dry fitting the horn against this foam head that I've got to check how the horns will sit when worn. Now I'm wrestling the pool noodle into the shape that I want my horns. Some of the wires might shift around a little bit. You can see I've got this sharp bit poking out here now. No worries, that can get trimmed down later. I'm gonna add a bit of extra tape and trim down the wires a little, and then repeat for my second horn. Keep in mind, you want your horns to be mirror images of each other, so if you bend the first horn to the right, you'll have to bend the second horn to the left. I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna attach these horns to my head. I picked up these headbands from the dollar store. These are garbage. They're so flimsy, but what I'm gonna do is bend the wires so that the horns can slide on and off the headband, and then I can go find a sturdier headband in the future. I was trying to be cheap. If you're gonna do this, try to find a headband that's made of metal, or maybe some thick elastic would work better. I don't know. So I bent the wire across the base of the horn and back up on itself. I taped the wires down, trimmed off the excess, and then repeated for the second horn. Now these will slide off and on the headband. So now that I've got my horns all formed, I would normally cover them with paper mache to give them a nice hard finish. But just because these would be like for costuming, I want to be more considerate of the finished weight. My regular technique of using paper mache and then covering that with paper clay and sanding it down to a nice finish would maybe make these too heavy to wear comfortably. So I grabbed some foam clay. I've never used this stuff before, but I've seen other people use it online and I thought I'd give it a go. So let's give it a try and see how it comes out. So this stuff is stickier than I expected. You really gotta get in there and dig it out of the bag. I flattened the foam clay into pancakes between my hands and then wrapped those around the pool noodle until it was covered. I really could not get this stuff smoothed out. I tried a wooden spatula, a pasta roller, I tried compressing it in between my hands, but I just could not get it smooth while wet. If you have any tips for smoothing out foam clay, please leave them in the comments so we can all learn together, because I could not get this stuff figured out. Okay, so I've just put the headband on this foam head I have. Looks like it's stuck on there pretty good, so when it's dry I'll have to cut it off, but that's fine. I don't really care about this head. I'm gonna let this dry really well and we'll come back to them. So the horns are good and dry. They've been drying for a few days now, but the finish on these is atrocious. So lumpy and bumpy. Luckily, this stuff can be sanded down, so I'm going to get my respirator, turn on the vacuum, and sand these a little bit smoother after I cut them off of the foam head because they are good and stuck. I surgically removed these horns from the foam head with a penknife, and then I pulled them off the headband. I ended up getting a bit too aggressive with the sandpaper, so I had to break out the foam clay again to make a few little repairs. The repairs I made on my horns are finally dry. One thing I did notice is that if you have thick areas of foam, it'll look like it's dry on the outside, but then it will be very mushy still in the middle. So when you are letting your projects dry, make sure you really give it a few days. I'm gonna smooth out any remaining bumps with these nail files I use. I really like these because I find they give me really good control. I'm gonna put on my respirator and get sanding. So the sanding worked great. I'm super happy with the finish of these now, so I'm gonna take them over to my desk for paint. Being that I've never worked with foam clay before, I've actually never painted it. I'm going to be adding some textile medium to my paint. Because the foam is so squishy, I think it'd be really good for the paint to be flexible. This textile medium, it transforms it into a permanent, flexible, washable fabric paint. And I think in this case, having the acrylic paint be flexible will really help. I mixed a drop of brown and a drop of yellow into some white acrylic, added my fabric medium, whipped that up, and then slapped 2 good coats on each of my horns. When dry, I used a crusty old chip brush to wet blend some white and yellow streaks on there, and I think this worked really well for getting some authentic looking horns. I let that dry really well, and then I darkened the tip of each horn with some burnt umber and black. Then I thinned out the burnt umber with more fabric medium to make a wash to add some grunge. That was it. Easy peasy paint job. So here are my horns dry. I'm not going to clear coat them or anything. I'm just going to slide these onto a headband and this project is done. I didn't know you were out here. I think these horns turned out pretty great. They're pretty comfy to wear. They only weigh about 80 grams each and they're pretty soft against my head. I have these on elastic right now, but I'd be interested to see how they feel on a metal headband. Would that maybe make them sturdier? They're pretty secure though. I can bounce and they don't move around too much. But considering how big these things are, they're not too hard to wear. If you want to make some pool noodle horns, I hope this video is a good resource for you. Give me a like if you think I did a good job. Not only do likes make me feel all warm and fuzzy, they help other people find this video. If you have any questions about the process, please leave them in the comments. I answer almost every comment I get on this channel and I'm always happy to help out my viewers. Subscribe to my channel. I'm posting here as often as I can. Follow me on the socials. Go make some pool noodle horns and I'll see you on the next one.